Okay, so you might have heard that Lagos is famed for its myriad of beaches and they're all absolutely gorgeous. But it can be hard to choose which one is your favourite or just deciding which one is the beach for you. So today we're going to be looking at all the beaches across Lagos. We're going to be travelling from Porto here on the southern coast, all the way around this headland here, which is called Ponta da Piedade, to the beaches along the east coast. We're finally going to finish at the largest expansion of lovely white sand here at Meia Praia. The best thing about the beaches in Lagos is that they're all connected by this coastal footpath that leads all the way from Porto right into the beaches next to the town. This makes for an absolutely magnificent day out if you're a fan of hiking, and you can hike from each beach and spend a bit of time at each one. It will also allow you to see the amazing coastline that Lagos has to offer, and it's a very unique coastline and very jagged, but it's absolutely wonderful. So Holly and I's preferred method of transportation between these beaches after the hiking was via the stand-up paddleboard. So you can hop on the paddleboard at any of these beaches. You can also hire the paddleboards and go for paddleboard tours in Lagos. And this is a great way because it allows you to not only get your exercise in, but also discover the little coves and different picturesque swimming spots that Lagos has to offer. And because we had a lot of energy that day, there were quite a few rocks and it was high tide, so we decided to throw ourselves off some of these rocks.
Don't make me dance to the tune that you're humming. No, my body don't move like that. Don't make me pretend I don't see your shortcomings. You'll be running when I raise the black flag. Get out your bomb and fly away. We'll be dancing with our hands in the air when our new dawn is rising.
Yes! Oh, that was so cool!
So we're here at Porto, the second largest beach in Lagos. So the second largest beach in Lagos and 4 kilometres southwest of the town. So this is probably the furthest beach away from the town centre itself. Now in Lagos, up there with Meia Praia, it's probably one of the best beaches for surfing. And this is because it's not protected from the powerful swell of the Atlantic Ocean. So you do get a little swell there. It's quite small, but perfect for beginners and intermediate surfers. In peak season, it can get quite busy, even with its off-centre location, but the vastness of the beach prevents it from becoming too overcrowded. So there's always places to sit and put your towels down. It's surrounded by these huge golden sprawling cliffs. And again, there's a magnificent hike right along from the beach itself, and it goes all the way up either west or east. At Porto there's a huge car park just behind the beach, so there's plenty of parking spaces, restaurants and bars. So at Porto we've got Camilo, which is my personal favourite, and Antonio's, both with amazing views of the ocean. And the beers and food there are relatively cheap, so obviously with it being an off-centre location, it's very good for your cheaper beers, even with a magnificent sea view. So for a Kaneka or a large beer, it's only €3 at Camilo. In peak season, there are many kayak tours that depart twice daily from the beach. And these are dubbed the best way to see the caves, and the tours last for about 2.5 hours. So Porto is my absolute favourite. I like to go to the beach, run along it because it's such a long beach. Holly goes for a surf, and then we end up at Camilo and we unwind with a beer. Wish I could stop here for a beer, but there's no time to dilly-dally. On to Canavial. Well, as you can see, Praia de Canavial is surrounded by this thick vegetation. It's accessible by this very steep and semi-destroyed path. There are steps, but they're just intact, really. And it's a boiling hot day, so I imagine there's a few sunbathers down there. This is probably one of the hardest to access beaches in Lagos, which I suppose is why it became a nudist beach, because it's very difficult to access and you can't really see it until you get down there. So we'll head down. Praia de Canavial is a charming and quite quaint beach, and it's separated from Porto by a very small headland. Now there's no car park really. You can park on the road nearby, but there's no official car park for Canavial. So as you can see, it's very difficult terrain, so I wouldn't recommend travelling in your flip-flops. Take them in your backpack and wear a pair of decent shoes, because quite frankly, my Birkenstocks aren't doing the job. And access is very difficult, so it's a very steep staircase that's kind of semi in a ruin down to Praia de Canavial. It's fun going down, but coming back up, it is hard work. Now, as you can probably see, there is a walk from Porto all the way to Canavial. However, if you've not got your walking boots on, I probably wouldn't recommend it because it's dense and thick vegetation that you have to wade through. Right then, into the jungle we go. As you just get to the bottom of the steps, just before Canavial, it's really overgrown, so you have to actually duck down and wade yourself through there. But it's amazing because you go through this thick tunnel of wildlife and then it opens up and you can see the whole of Canavial. So before you go to Canavial, make sure that you go at low tide, especially on the weekend when it's quite busy, because it's a very thin beach. So if it's at high tide, there's much less space and room for sitting down. There's another small swell because again, it's not protected from the Ponta da Piedade headland. So again, if you're a beginner surfer, there are a few waves there for you to go and surf as well. Now, if you want to get an all-over tan, if you know what I mean, then Canavial's your kind of beach. So I'm going to warn you now, don't be surprised if you go there and you do see some things that you probably haven't signed up for before. It's a perfect beach to get your kit off, and it is accepted at Canavial, and that's because it's basically invisible from the top of the cliffs. So these rocks here signal the end of Canavial, and it's a great spot to just sit down on the rock and listen to the waves. So I'm going to leave you with that for a second. So Ponta da Piedade. This isn't a beach as such, but it is a landmark in Lagos because it separates the kind of south-facing coast from the east-facing coast. It's very picturesque. There are loads of stairs to get down to actually get to Ponta da Piedade, where all the boats depart. But especially at high tide, it's really fun for swimming. In peak season, this isn't possible because there are so many boats that come in and out. And there's a cafe located at the top here, and I got a freshly squeezed orange juice from here on this day, and it was absolutely gorgeous. You'll also see the Farol de Ponta da Piedade, which is the lighthouse that's been in operation since 1913. And you can see the red top of this lighthouse pretty much from anywhere in Lagos. And there's quite a few people getting Instagram photos and things like that when you're there, so take your camera. So we just went swimming in those waters. Unbelievable. Very, very shaky, weren't they?
They were.
As you can see, the waves are all over the place. They're not looking as bad now.
But show them where we went. We went on that rock there.
With the Portuguese flag, jumped off there.
We put that flag there.
Whoa, in he goes. It's absolutely wild in there. Woo! And then we have probably the most famous of all beaches in Lagos, Praia de Camilo. Now this is located between Praia de Dona Ana and Ponta da Piedade, and it's a very, very popular beach that's set down among truncated cliffs. At the top, before the stairs, there is a small car park and quite a lot of parking up the access road just to the side of it. Now to get down to the actual beach, there are 200 wooden steps, and this is often referred to as the stairway to heaven. So if you go over to our Instagram, you'll see a little picture of the stairway to heaven. When you walk down the steps, each time you finish your set of steps, another bit of the beach will open up until you're finally there and you can see the whole beach in front of you. I absolutely love Camilo, but the only problem is that it's quite a small beach, and because it's very popular, it can often become very crowded. I know when me and Nick went, we actually struggled to find anywhere to sit down, but we did eventually. But if you go onto Instagram, this is the one that everybody uploads, and there's usually a picture of them at the top of the stairway to heaven overlooking the beach. So this is the first beach in the series that's protected by the Ponta da Piedade headland. So while it's really windy up at the top, it's actually very calm, and the seas are very calm at the bottom. So it's a brilliant little swimming spot. And because the water's so clear, there are a lot of people that take out snorkels and they go snorkeling and try and see all the fish. You'll also see the famous arch on the left-hand side of the beach. Now on one side of the arch is the beach, and on the other side is the sea, so it makes for a really good contrast. Or you can pass through the tunnel, which will take you out onto a smaller little cove. And this is still Praia de Camilo, but if it's very busy on the main beach itself, then I recommend going through here, and it does open up quite a bit. Now back up the stairway to heaven, 200. You'll see O Camilo, which is the restaurant there, and you'll also see this on the way to the car park from the beach. Now this is a very trendy restaurant. I think it's quite expensive there, and that's due to its location and popularity, but it's quite a romantic restaurant, and people sit out on the front and overlook the beach and the ocean. And then we get on to Praia de Dona Ana. So this is a beautiful and probably one of the most famous beaches in Lagos, just situated just further down the road from Praia de Camilo. It's got a massive car park there, so you'll never have an issue for parking. And its golden vibrancy from the eroded cliffs and the beautiful golden sand hits you immediately as you walk down the wooden steps. So it does have a very relaxed atmosphere there, and plenty of people are sat on the beach sunbathing, and they're very happy to do so. So after a very hot day of sunbathing, the waters are very cold here and still very calm because they're protected from that headland. So it's perfect for sitting down and reading a book for the day on a bit of a lazy day, maybe a lazy Sunday, and then hopping in the nice cold waters to wake you up a little bit. Now, if we're talking cafes, bars and restaurants at Praia de Dona Ana, there are quite a few options there. So firstly, we have the Marisol Beach Restaurant. And this is a lovely, quite cheap restaurant that's situated actually on the beach at Praia de Dona Ana, and the balcony overlooks the sea. Finally, there is Carvey Beach Hotel. So you'll see this, it's just next to the car park, and there's a lovely pool on top of the hotel. And then just next to that, we have Luca's Rooftop Restaurant, which if you go there, get the seafood because it's like it's just been caught out the ocean. It's unbelievable. Other than that, Praia de Dona Ana is very good for swimming and going out kayaking. And you'll see, because it's quite a big beach, you'll see all the time there's boats and kayaks going out on these tours. This is also the location where the rock was that you saw me and Holly jumping off earlier. Okay, so now we move a lot closer to the Lagos town centre. And we have a series of beaches, starting with Praia dos Estudantes, sometimes also known as Formosa. So these are very calm beaches that are very much protected by a lot of headlands and rock formations that stretch out right into the sea. So wherever you are on the beach, you're very protected from the strong winds that Lagos has to offer by these big rock formations. So the beach is actually made up by two different beaches, which is connected via a tunnel. So once you walk through the first bit of the beach, you'll then go through the tunnel and then you'll open up into the second bit of the beach. And it's there that you'll see the big Roman bridge. So this bridge actually connects two massive rock formations, and you'll see loads of pictures of people stood under the bridge. So due to their close proximity to the centre, they can get very busy in peak season. Now at the top you have the gorgeous Mar restaurant. So this is located above the two beaches and has delicious seafood and some great views of the ocean. Because of where the restaurant is situated, it's got kind of an astroturf outside, so you can sit there and have a beer or go for a meal after a day's beach hopping. So just next to Praia dos Estudantes, you have Praia da Batata. So again, it's very close to the centre of Lagos, and it's situated around the Fort de Ponta da Bandeira. And this is a guarded Lagos estuary that was built in the 17th century. So back in the day, this used to be the main fort and where all the boats would come in Lagos, whereas now it mainly operates for more smaller vessels. And at the entrance of Praia da Batata, you'll see loads of kayak, catamaran and small vessel boat hires. So if you start your trip here and go for a hire boat, you can take that all the way out across the beaches we've just come from, all the way back to Porto de Mos. So the northern end of the beach is divided by a big concrete pier, and this actually separates Batata from Meia Praia, which is our next beach. So Meia Praia is absolutely massive, for want of a better term, the largest beach in Lagos, and stretches 4 kilometres. It's got a very low-key atmosphere. Now, no matter what time of year it is, if it's peak season, there'll always be room on this beach because it's so vast. And there's small cafes and bars that are dotted all along the beach. Now, the best access to the beach, there is quite a lot of access, but the best way is over the Lagos Harbour Bridge. So, as I said, even in peak season, it's very spaced out and there'll always be room to sit. However, the western side, the one closest to Lagos town centre, is much busier than the eastern side. Now, because this isn't very protected from the headlands, it's very popular for kite surfing because of the strong winds there. Other activities include surfing and jet skiing. So that's it. That's most of the beaches here in Lagos. I didn't get to touch on some of the kind of really small coves there, and there are loads of them around here because of how jagged the coastline is. Having said all that, Porto de Mos, my absolute favourite. Genuinely can't beat Campimar Bar, and Antonio's is a very nice bar as well. You can surf, you can kayak, you can paddleboard, you can chill on the beach. It gets busy, but there's still plenty of space. So Porto de Mos is definitely my favourite. Holly?
Yes.
Where's your favourite beach in Lagos?
Well, they're all absolutely gorgeous, but my personal favourite is Praia de Dona Ana because you can do a little swim and then go cliff jumping. It's just gorgeous. It's really big. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Don't make me